so strong, it grabbed me by the throat. They say she isn't sexy, but she gave me pause for thought. It was fun again in time. To not join in would be a crime. Fun again in time, all the way. Yeah, fun again in time. She rockin' in the Nautilus Heights. Fun again in time, every day. She led me by the hand, poured us both a shot. It hit me in the head, my body running hot. A sugar rush all over to the land that time forgot. We danced into eternity by way of Tuesday. The carnage all around us moved out of our way. A foxtrot had a tea dance in the Waldorf, it was night. It was fun again in time. To not join in would be a crime. Fun again in time, all the way. Yeah, fun again in time. I'll take mine with a slice of lime. Fun again in time, every day. The last thing I remember was a stumbling maze that last. The band rocked out a jamboree. The room pulsated with applause. The very end of me, because I woke up naked in the street. It was fun again in time. To not join in would be a crime. Fun again in time, all the way. Yeah, fun again in time. She rockin' in the Nautilus Heights. Fun again in time, every
Well, it's great to see Duncan Reid again. Duncan, how have you been since retirement? When was that?
It was over 18 months ago, and it seems like many, many decades ago. I've been absolutely brilliant. It's been like a whole weight off my shoulders, and can get on with life.
Do you miss it, though? Do you miss the thrill of playing gigs, recording stuff, and having adoring fans all over the world?
Do you know, I really don't. I mean, you're right. That was great. And it was something that I had to do. It wasn't just for the adulation. It was, it was just something within me that I had to do. We could talk about it later, perhaps, but it's a strange thing, the way that I went from having to do it to suddenly feeling relieved that I didn't. There's a whole load of issues in there as to why. But life is really, really great.
Well, you look very good, and I know what you're going to say. You always did.
Well, that is true, isn't it?
You wouldn't be a big head without it. Let's go back years and years and years. Let's go back to 1977 and The Boys, and the first album, which was imaginatively called The Boys.
There's lots of albums that have done that, first albums. Yeah, it was a very exciting time. It was the culmination of a time that had started back in 1976, when this thing called punk started to bubble up. But it wasn't very big. It was a really, really tiny band of people. I remember seeing in the street this bloke walking along who had blue hair. He actually ended up being our roadie. But so, there's one. You very rarely see them. We chase after him and say, what are you about? What do you do? What are you into? And it was a time when being in London was just the centre of the universe. You know, if we go and do gigs in France or Holland or whatever, you couldn't wait to get back to London, because London was where it was happening, especially on a Monday and a Tuesday night in the Marquee or the Vortex or whatever, when there would be this rather small band of people who were into this stuff going down there. And we got signed after playing in Dingwalls by NEMS, which was one of the worst things that we ever did. As if we'd waited a few weeks, Polydor would have come along and signed us instead of the Jam. But nevertheless, the album itself, I see it as a flawed masterpiece. It's a masterpiece because of the energy of it and because of the quality of the songs and what have you. It's flawed because of the production. It was a bit of a mistake later on when I saw the re-release on Fire, and Matt and Cass had put themselves down as the producers. And I thought, well, why do they want to take the blame for that? It wasn't only their fault. For a start, the vocals, if you listen to going back to Beatles records right up to today, and you'll hear two things are very prominent. One's the vocals and the other's the bass. And if you listen to that album, it's trying to make itself powerful by promoting the guitars, and the vocals aren't very prominent. I remember being in the Speakeasy when First Time had just been pressed, and I had a copy, and I gave it to the DJ, and he played it over the big system there at the Speakeasy, and I was almost horror-filled because you couldn't hear the vocals at all. And this brilliant song, one of the best songs ever recorded, wasn't coming over well because you couldn't hear the vocals. But having said that, let's not take it away from the album. It's a brilliant, brilliant album. And of course, First Time is, as I said, one of the best songs ever recorded. And I'm really, really proud to have sung it. And it's the reason why right at the end of the Big Heads, we were still playing First Time live, and everybody knows First Time, so I don't think we need to play that now. But the one other boys' songs that I was still playing right through my solo career, because I just loved playing it live, was So Depressing. On the record, it's great. It's one of the times when me and Matt are doing a sort of Lennon-McCartney things in terms of vocals, in that we're both singing all the way through, and then Cass comes in with a high harmony on the chorus. Absolutely superb.
And what a great title. Double meaning, isn't it?
Yeah.
So depressing and so depressing.
Yeah.
Where he's worked. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, Matt is a great lyricist. He really is. Although he used to share songwriting credits with Cass, it's 100% Matt Dangerfield, that song. I was actually in the room when he started to write it, and he was just playing the riff and was looking for a tune to go with it. So it's 100% Matt Dangerfield, and it's really good. It's sort of like, to me, it's a bit like a Status Quo song, in that Status Quo wrote perfect songs with just 3 chords. And So Depressing's a very, very simple song. And the best songs are the simple songs.
Now, the next album, Alternative Chartbusters. Why were you an alternative chartbuster?
In all the music papers, you would have the main charts, which would just be terrible. You know, they'd have Olivia Newton-John and people in them. But Sounds published this alternative chart, which would be all of the punk stuff coming out. And I don't know how on earth they ranked it. They probably just ranked it on how many pints some band had bought the journalist. But nevertheless, it was quite a big thing. Oh, you know, are we going to be number one in the alternative charts? And we often were, of course. So that's why we thought it was quite funny to call ourselves the alternative chart busters, because goodness knows we weren't busting the normal chart.
You were also an alternative boy band, really, if you excuse the pun. The likes of, 9/11 and Westlife and all that today, or in the past. But of course, you were a bit of a hunk yourself in Jackie magazine and things like that. How did you react from that, from being like a punk band type of thing to being on the bedroom of lots of young teenagers' walls?
We always wanted to be a boy band, but a boy band in the sort of tradition of the Beatles and what have you. I mean, we knew that we were a good-looking band, and we were. You know, seriously good looking.
Seriously.
There was no doubt about that. And we thought it was great fun to be in those girly magazines. In fact, you know, everybody was. You know, I was hunk of the week on many occasions, and they'd have a chart. They'd have a chart, this week's top 10 hunks. And I was very proud one week to be was hunk of the week ahead of Paul Weller and Billy Idol. I thought, oh, wow, I've made it now. And they finally got it right, that I'm better looking than Billy Idol.
Do you think you've matured with age? Oh, your look's better now than were then, do you think?
No. Bloody hell. I used to be beating off the girls with a stick. You know, go on the tube and, you know, seriously, I, as a teenager, I was a seriously good-looking teenager, and, you know, I'd have young girls staring at me.
Bless you.
Cursed, Keith.
So what's your pick from Alternative Chartbusters?
It's a great album. For me, it's the Best Boys album, mainly because the production is one heck of a lot better. It's got brilliant songs as well, bit more varied than the first album. If you listen to all of the first album through, brilliant as it is, brilliant as the songs are, brilliant as the performances are, it gives you a bit of a headache by the end because it's all, you know, typical punk, bash, bash, bash. Whereas Alternative Chartbusters got more pace to it. And of course, there's one standout track above all the others, which is Brickfield Nights. Lyrically, again, by Matt, superb lyrics, looking back to his childhood in Leeds, and very evocative of that sort of teenage years. Great Phil Spector beat to it. Just a great song.
And it's been well covered as well. I know on the New Wave with Newman show, we once played, I think, about 8 songs, and we mixed them all together. But there's about 8 cover versions from all over the world of Brickfield Nights.
Yeah, the Boys quite rightly have been covered multiple times. That and First Time, obviously, more than others, because they're the 2 best-known Boys songs. And covered by Die Totenhosen, as you played many times, which, of course, got us known in Germany. So thank you, lads.
No
So, the next album, To Hell With The Boys. What a great name.
Yeah. And on the back of it, a great photo because it was recorded in Trondheim in Norway. And near there's a town called Hell. We took a photo because the Norwegian for goods yard is God's expedition. So there's a great sign in the goods yard of the local station that we're sitting under a sign that says God's expedition, Hell. Absolutely superb. So it could only be called one thing. It was an album that was made after we'd finally managed to get out of the NEMS contract by going on strike, which seemed like a good idea at the time, and it did eventually work, but it took a year, best part of anyway. And of course, in this business, things move on. By the time we come back, the world had moved on. It had become more post-punk. And we were still doing this sort of pop, rock, punk business, which was a little bit out of favour. Both this and Boys Only was a period when the Boys started becoming less fun for me and frustrating, because you'll notice that I sing less on those albums. And it's very frustrating for me because not everybody, with one notable exception, which I'll come on to, was saying that I wasn't a very good singer. When we recorded To Hell With The Boys in Norway, I recorded a few vocals, including Terminal Love. And the producer over there said, well, we can't have this, the bloke can't sing, which was a bit of a shock. So I went home early and Matt recorded the vocals on the entire album, which is a version that came out later because the Boys owned the rights to it. But at the time, if you look around this time, listen to my vocal on Terminal Love, songs like Jimmy Brown, Silver Bells on the Yobs album, I was actually capable of brilliant vocals. My voice has always had this sort of youthful quality to it that if it's spread across a Boys album, in contrast to Matt and occasionally John's vocals, gives the albums more of a youthful quality. So I was extremely frustrated at this because I don't have a huge range, and it was always necessary to work a bit to make the songs in the right key for me so you can get the best out of me. But the track that I will pick from To Hell With The Boys is Terminal Love, because it's another great John Plain composition. And it's necessary to listen to the Safari version, not the later versions that come out. So the Safari version has my vocal on it. The later versions have Matt's vocal on it. I think if you compare the two, you can see what I'm talking about. It's not that was a better singer than Matt. I definitely wasn't. But it's got this youthful quality to my voice, which goes great with the song, which, as I say, is a great song as well.
Why was Knocking on Heaven's Door incorporated into that? Was it just the chords fitted when it was written, or is there another reason?
It's absolutely that. It's because the chords fitted. And actually, throughout Boys records, you'll hear allusions to other songs. For instance, on Rue Morgue on that album, the guitar solo is actually Pleasant Valley Sunday by the Monkees.
All right.
And you'll find little snippets all over the Boys where we thought it was quite funny to take a bit of another song and just incorporate it. And it fitted and worked really well. It also worked because the lyrics are about dead rock stars. And then you got a bit of Knocking on Heaven's Door, which sort of fits the lyrics of the rest of the song.
Jimmy. Elvis. Keith. Sid. Just want to recap on my favourite story, which was the Ramones tour, the end of the century tour with Baby I Love You. And can you just tell our listeners who perhaps have never heard it?
There won't be many who haven't heard that story.
It's infamous, I would say. But what a great story, the fact that you actually, well, you tell the story.
It's a story that bears being told many, many times because there aren't many people who've done this. We were on tour with the Ramones. Baby I Love You was just going into the lower reaches of the charts, about number 20, and they weren't playing it live. And we said to them, what are you doing? You've got this huge tour playing to thousands of people and you're not promoting your single. To which Dee Dee and Johnny said, well, there's a problem. We didn't play on the record and we don't know how to play it. So we got Johnny into our dressing room and John Plain taught him the chords. And there was this look of horror on Johnny's face as he looked at some of the chords. He said, what's that? And John would say, it's a minor chord. What's a minor chord? So we taught him to play it with two strings where a major chord is the same as a minor chord. And then the other thing is the record obviously has a lot of strings on it. Well, Cass learnt to play the string parts on his organ and then me and him every night would do the backing vocals. So there's a little clip on YouTube somewhere where Joey Ramone is introducing us as the boys' choir.
We'd like to feature the London Symphony on this one and the boys' choir. Casino Steele and Duncan Reid. Let's hear it for them,
And then you can hear the recording of us playing Baby I Love You and me and Cass doing the backing vocals. And as I always finish this story with, we're the only two people to play live with the Ramones and not be called Ramone.
Great story. Absolutely great story.
It's only later on that you realise, what a privilege it was to have played live with such a legendary band. They're just like Status Quo. There are very few bands who are perfect. And the Ramones were perfect, for many, many albums. You can't underestimate how talented you have to be to play such simple songs with such simple arrangements and so little production and still be brilliant. And they really were.
Yeah, I remember that gig for two reasons. A, because the boys were on, and B, because it was the first time I saw the Ramones at Newcastle City Hall or anywhere. How I first got introduced to the boys, though, was from a compilation album, 20 of Another Kind, with First Time.
Right.
And it had like a punk with big yellow hair on the front. And Patrick Fitzgerald was on it and The Jam and stuff like that. But The Boys was the first track on side 2, I believe. That's what got me into there, which then got me into buying the other albums. So I must dig that out because it was quite a good album. Quite a good album.
That's the great thing about having a really superb record like First Time. You put it on those compilations. And it was the sort of thing that at that time wasn't happening very much with the boys. Everybody else, because they were on major labels, was getting much more press, getting on compilations like that. So getting the exposure, getting on Top of the Pops, which was really important. If the boys had ever been on Top of the Pops, then we talked earlier about the number of girls chasing us we would have had from Newcastle to London, I'm sure. But when we came back later on, it was telling that after a couple of decades had passed, and all of that promotion at the time and publicity counted for nothing. It was just what people had heard. Mm-hmm. It was quite a big deal when we came back based on the quality of the songs and the records.
So that brings one to Boys Only. Was that the album at that time?
Yeah, that was the next one. And again, I talked about my frustration on To Hell with the Boys. it was really quadrupled on Boys Only, and it was quite an unhappy process for me. Cass had obviously left by this time, gone to start a very, very successful solo career in Norway. And we missed him in the sense that you can't lose a talent like that from a band, both a songwriting talent, an arranging talent, those high harmonies on the choruses, which are absolutely brilliant, and his funny old twisted Norwegian character, which brought a humour to the band. Unless you know Cash, you can't understand what a bloody weird but funny bloke he is. And a lot of that boys' humour early on came from him. Not exclusively, because Matt and John are really funny guys as well, but a lot of it came from Cass. So we'd lost that leg, if you like. And then Matt was writing the majority of the songs, so he wanted to sing all of the songs that he wrote, quite rightly. And John was now wanting to sing the songs that he wrote. So I was left with just singing 2 songs that Jack wrote.
Right.
Again, yeah, there are other songs on the album that I did actually record a vocal to, and then John, like Monotony. If you listen to Monotony, you listen to John's vocal. It's okay, it's a decent vocal, but as I said, I had this youthful quality to my voice, and I should have been singing that song along with others on the album to give it more of a varied flavour vocally. To other people, that's probably not the most important thing in the world, but it was deeply unsatisfying for me. I'd just like to say one thing, by the way, when I was talking about To Hell with the Boys, to give him his credit, having been told that I couldn't sing and all my vocals taken off the album with To Hell with the Boys, when we came back to London, Matt insisted that the 2 vocals, Rue Morgue and Terminal Love, were changed back to my vocals. So that was full credit to Matt for doing that. But in Boys Only, as I say, it's an unsatisfying album for me. I think it's a very patchy album, but there's a brilliant standout track from Matt on that. One of the best things the Boys ever recorded, which is Weekend.
I thought you were going to say that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it stands head and shoulders above the rest. It's a great, great pop song. He was really into the Cars at the time, so it's got a lot of that sort of Cars flavour to it, both in terms of the arrangement, but also the type of song it is with the type of chorus as well.
Sunday evening, I'm out of my brain. Monday morning, you tell me your name. Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going insane. Friday evening, I call you again. Weekend, I got a little money to spend. I wanna make you mine. Weekend, I wanna make you more than my friend. Weekend, I got a little money to spend. I'm gonna make you mine. Weekend, I wanna make you more than my friend. Monday morning, it's going too slow. I can't talk to nobody I know. Wednesday, Thursday, mind going AWOL. Friday evening, gonna give
Now, when you left the band, I mean, from what you've just said, it seemed as though that was the right time. You seemed to be pushed out a little bit with the vocals and the songs. What was your plan? Were you going to go back into music?
No, not at all. I mean, we talked about the records, but remember, there were a couple of major things that I brought to the boys. The first, with Jack, the drummer, we were both a bit younger than the others, had a little bit more youthful energy, and we brought that to the band, and in particular would often nudge the speed of the songs up a bit because we wanted to play them a bit faster. Quite rightly, we had the balance from Matt and others reining us back in, otherwise everything might have been played at 1,000 miles an hour, but it was a youthful energy we brought to it. And the other great strength that I had was, as Cass called me, the live frontman. You know, I was the guy at the front bouncing around. I can sort of feel an audience. And it's more than just the jumping around I do with the eye contact. I can sort of feel an audience and feed back to them. And it's an amazing feeling that I've got. And I brought that to the boys. It was becoming harder at the end of this period in the boys because we were playing tracks off the new album, which was sung by Matt and John and not me. So I was singing less live as well, which was making my role as sort of live frontman harder. So that was getting a bit frustrating as well. There was a crazy situation when we played Monotony live. John had sung it on the record, but I would sing it live because I just needed another song to balance the setup. We were dropped by the record company Safari at the time, so it was the right time to stop. We'd been going, I think it was 1982, and we'd started in 1976, so that's a good run. We'd had the usual progression of bands in that the career went up, and then it went down, and then it finishes. And I did have, towards the end of the boys, another band going called the Hollywood Killers. There was a story later on when I was touring with the Big Heads in Japan, and a long-lost recording of a song we recorded called No Joke emerged in a club. And it turned out it had been a big club hit in Japan. And I hadn't even listened to it for about 40 years or something. And I heard this song come on and I thought, bloody hell. In fact, Nick Hughes came over to me and said, who is this song? It's absolutely brilliant. I said, it's me. It's really good. I'll say it myself, a really good vocal from me at the time, proving that I really could sing. And a great song and a great arrangement.
Everything
So I had that for a while. And it was a weird thing with that band because we were absolutely huge in Fulham and Chelsea. Another good band being chased around by all these aristocratic women. It was great. So I had that, but I did decide, how old would I have been by the time I was a washed up musician? Not much more than about 23 or 24. And I looked around, and being a washed up young musician is one thing. Being a washed up old musician is a pretty sad thing, because if you've got a family or you get no chance of getting a mortgage or whatever, it's a pretty bad life. So I made the conscious decision that I would finally grow up and get a job, which is, bloody good going to go all the way to 24 without getting a job. Pretty bloody clever, I think. I decided to go to university. For some reason, I'd left school with science A-levels in maths, physics and chemistry. Not that I particularly enjoyed those, but that's what I had. So I got into Imperial University to study engineering, and I really enjoyed it. I hadn't used my brain since I was about 17, not in the sense of academically demanding way. And suddenly I had all this stuff to learn that was really interesting and really challenging. And it was just totally different. As I say, I really, really enjoyed that period at university in an intellectual way. When I got to the end of the 3 years and looking at what I could do with an engineering degree, it meant living in places that I didn't want to live. I wanted to live in London, and there's not a lot of engineering jobs in London because all the sort of steelworks and everything's in blinking Port Talbot and places. So I decided, this won't work. I know what, I want to get into business. So I went and qualified as an accountant, which again was very different. I used to say at the time, I'm one of a very select band of punk rockers who qualified as an accountant. There aren't many. But then I got to the end of that 3 years training there. I thought, this is really bloody boring. I really don't want to carry on doing this. It really is as dull as everybody says. Really good business training, great experience, great knowledge, but you really wouldn't want to do it. So one of my clients was Andrew Lloyd Webber, because I'd had a huge stroke of luck in that I joined this firm that is now Deloitte's. And there was a bloke there who's been a very important person in my life and a business colleague ever since, who had built up this brilliant array for music business clients and also film and TV and what have you. And there I turned up in short trousers, unqualified, listening to all these very qualified accountants working with these music business clients. And I'd say, yeah, but it doesn't work like that. So what the hell do you know? Well, I was an artist. I was signed to a record company. I got all this. And so, I did pretty well. And with the two of us went off to essentially manage Andrew Lloyd Webber and run his company, the Really Useful Group. So I went there and had an amazing number of years, living out of a suitcase all around the world, putting on shows everywhere, in Germany, Los Angeles, what have you, getting into areas like the film business, doing deals to get Phantom of the Opera and other things onto film, exploiting the music, etc. Very, very exciting time. Until it came to a period where Andrew Lloyd Webber had decided that he wanted to simplify his life and take everything back to just being a writer and producer of shows in London that would then be licensed to other people around the world as opposed to do it himself. And I thought to myself, where does that leave someone whose job is basically to take all these copyrights and exploit them all around the world?
Yeah.
Well, basically, get in the sack is what it meant. So before that happened, I looked in the paper and I saw an advert that said Nottingham Forest require finance director. And it was at a time when the whole Premier League was starting, when football, the business side of football was exploding. And I thought, well, that would be interesting. I'll never get the job, but it'd be fun to apply for it. So I did apply for it without telling anybody anything. Went up to Nottingham, had an interview with the people who'd just taken over the club and got the job. I think I got it because of a joke I told in the interview, because they said, well, what do you know about running a football club? And I said, well, look, what is football? It's basically running a great big venue, exploiting your rights, selling merchandise, and looking after temperamental divas. And I said, the only difference between running a theatre media company and doing that is that the divas are a different sex. So that made everybody laugh. And I think it was because of that I got the job. So I went back home and I said to my wife, I got a new job. And she said, oh, yeah, what's that? I said, it's in Nottingham. So had then, again, another fantastic couple of years, really, really interesting, involved in something that I loved. You know, if it wasn't going to be entertainment, it was going to be football. Bit of a weird time because we made, thank goodness, the decision that Liz and my daughter were going to stay in London and they would come up to Nottingham in school holidays and weekends. Because thank goodness we did that, because there's a major difference between working for someone like Andrew Lloyd Webber and running a football club, is that when you work for Andrew Lloyd Webber, you're making money literally in your sleep.
Yeah.
Because there are shows on all around the world, or there are films on, or there are people buying records or whatever, and you can be in bed and the money was rolling in. Running a football club is like trying to stave off bankruptcy until the next rich idiot comes along. And you can see that in football at the moment. You know, in your club is now owned by a Middle East government.
Yeah.
You know, that Liverpool is owned by American billionaires. It's that sort of crazy time, you know, looking at the payroll and wow, look at the size of that. Compared to, and then you're off trying to save money on the paper clips because you're trying to find all the money you can to pile it into the team. We went through a flotation there to try and raise some more money just to keep this thing going. Because we started off in the Premier League, got relegated to what is now the Championship, and then had this season until we got promoted again. And once we got back into the Premier League, I took one look at the balance sheet and one look at the team. Thought, this is beyond me. This is not something that anybody can do. And in fact, they ended up getting sold to a hedge fund manager. He came in with his money before they've ended up now with their own billionaire, which is a Greek shipping billionaire, and which is why Nottingham Forest are now doing well again, because they've got the money. But anyway, as I say, amazing couple of years. I mean, if you think being a fan on the terrace can be intense at time, you try being a director running a football club where every win is so important. It's just like an emotional roller coaster that is intense. There's a couple of episodes I remember from it which were just funny or joyful. The first is that the first game I took my daughter to, I think she was about 7, and she sat beside me. And of course, after about 5 minutes, she's fidgeting in her seat. She's looking around the stands. She's trying to play with stuff because she's bored stiff. But the third game, halfway through the game, there was this little voice beside me that suddenly said, he was offside. I thought, yeah, he was offside. He was absolutely offside. You know? And this little 7-year-old was hooked, as you do get hooked with football. It was a funny introduction to football for her because, of course, you know, we'd go to away games and we'd be in the boardroom. I remember one game at Stoke where she was there with a plate of prawn sandwiches, as you would be. She's going, look after you very well here, don't they, Daddy? So, absolutely brilliant. I was like, I'm going to take you to a game on the terraces sometime. You'll see what it's really like. There was loads of other things. I remember once we were away at Manchester City, and we bought Pierre van Hooijdonk from Celtic, absolutely brilliant player, on the basis that we thought at the time he was going to be playing football in the Premier League. We had a clause that if he scored 20 goals, then I think they were due about another £500,000 or something to Celtic. And we thought, in the Premier League, you know, he's a good player. He'd probably struggle to score 20 goals, so that's all right. Of course, put him in the Championship, and he's scoring goals for fun. He's like, you know, I think I said once in a blog, it's like watching a racehorse race against goats. You know, he was just so much better than he was banging them in. And I think we were 3-1 up at Manchester City or something when we got a penalty. And that penalty was his 20th goal. I practically ran on the pitch to nick the ball. See, we don't need you to score that penalty. There were so many times like that, so many stories. It was really, really good fun. But eventually I came back to London, back to start up a business there, which is in TV and film and music.
And you're still working in that business now?
Yeah. I mean, I should be retired, and in many ways I am, but there's a great team there, and it's always great fun working with people who are much younger than you. Best lesson anybody ever gave me is try and get everybody else to do all the work, because they please and surprise you. And at first, it's like watching toddlers toddle off into a minefield. You sort of got your fingers over your eyes saying, oh, they're gonna really cock up and do something terrible. And then they don't and come back, and you think to yourself, they did that better than I could. And from then on, life is a very, very happy place. Just keeping an eye on people, letting them do good stuff. I liken it to a bit like being the aging midfield player. You don't get around as quick, but you can see the problems coming, and you can just direct people. Oh, keep an eye on that. Yeah, it's a good place to be.
Well, that brings us on nicely to the big heads, because strangely, you surrounded yourself with good-looking young people, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, what a surprise. It's worth touching on before that. I think it was 2000 or something. Loads of people saying, oh, will the boys get back together and play again? Thinking, no. The boys was a young thing. Yeah, you can't get back together as a load of old codgers and do it. And then an offer came in from Japan. Oh, well, that's quite good, isn't it? I haven't been to Japan. And that kicked off a really good period of about 10 years playing all around the world, because suddenly in all of these hotspots around the world, including Germany and Argentina and America and loads of places, the boys were really revered, and it was brilliant. You just get on a plane, go somewhere, play. Everybody would adore you and say how brilliant you were. They'd give you a bucket load of cash and you come home. So what's not to like? It was really, really good. But it got a bit weird towards the end. All these tensions started to arise, and it takes two to tango. It's a classic thing in bands. They're like dysfunctional families, and you get all of these tensions. Typical boys' humour. We did a tour of South America, of Argentina, Uruguay and Brazil, and we called it the We All Love Each Other tour, because of course internally there was fights going off left, right and centre. One thing that caused a huge amount of trouble in this period was after Honest John Plain, who sadly left us recently, asked me to contribute a couple of songs to his 524th solo album. And in my inimitable style, I took control of it a bit. But it was John who came up with the idea to turn it into a band album and call that band the Matless Boys. But for some reason, I got the blame for it when the album came out and we did some gigs with that name. But it was a really important album for me, because I suddenly discovered that I could write songs quite easily and that people would really like them.
I'm here every day, the beat goes on anyway, but I don't know where it's going to, and I don't care long as I got you, yeah. Anyhow, I can say I choose this life forever, yeah, yeah. Any old time. Every day I'm just fine, sitting here, passing time, but I don't know where it's going to, and I don't care long as I got you, yeah. What the hell, it's so cool, I choose this life forever, yeah, yeah. Any old time, 'cause I can smile if I want, walk for miles if I want, act the child if I want, if I want, yeah, yeah, any old time. Anywhere we choose to go, we'll go the same way, fast or slow. And I don't know where we're going to, and I don't care long as I got you, yeah. Anyhow and anyway, I choose this life forever, yeah, yeah. Any old time, 'cause I can smile if I want, walk for miles if I want, act the child if I want, if I want, yeah, yeah, any old time.
It came to a head in Spain when it always stopped short of physical violence before then, but it boiled over for some goodness knows what reason. It really was stupid. And it got to a position where it was either going to be me leaving or Matt. And it was never going to be Matt. It was always going to be me. So off I went. It actually took me a long time to get over that because I was suddenly on my own. This hugely important thing in my life that I was really enjoying was gone. It was actually, with hindsight, the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to do my solo career, which turned into the most joyful and productive, and I think right at the end, made me make the best stuff of my entire career. The last album I made is actually the best thing of my entire career. But for the first two albums, having to leave the boys was still something really raw and emotional and painful and difficult to get over. And there's actually a song on the second album called Not the Kind of Guy Girls Hug, which ostensibly is about me feeling that, I'm quite cold to people and people don't really relate to me, especially women. It's actually about an imagined walk that I'm taking with Casino Steel, because Cass was the kind of guy that if something happened, he could just shrug it off. So it's me saying to him, why can't I be like you?
Yeah.
Why can't I just shrug things off? Because later on, I was to discover about myself that I'm autistic, which has all sorts of implications to it. There's all sorts of good sides to being that. One of the things that normally comes with being what they call, I think they call it high performing autistic, is that you tend to have a large degree of creativity and you tend to look at the world in different ways. But one of the other things that come with it is that if you perceive any unfairness, you immediately, your hackles up, you go into attack mode. And that was definitely me, which is one of the reasons why there were so many fights in the boys. But there I was, suddenly alone, literally alone, not knowing what to do. And I had the huge good fortune to be introduced by a friend in Argentina, Mariano Ash, to Tony Barber. And Tony's a really individual, maverick kind of guy. To anybody who doesn't know him, he's been in loads of bands. He was in Chelsea, the Buzzcocks, various other bands. He was even in Nirvana for 11 and a half minutes. But he had this really quirky studio out in the middle of nowhere in Essex that was in a house that Crash used to live in, and one of them still did, owned by Knox's granddad. But he had this little shack down the end of the garden. And with Tony, I managed to make an album that I could afford to make because he was so bloody generous, both with the time and the use of his studio, and also teaching me all of this stuff that he knew about song structure and arrangement and all the rest of it. And having been in a band for a long time as a bass player and singer, I sort of wanted to get out of me to see if I could make a record with me being an egoist and playing and singing everything. And apart from the drums by Von Ritchie and the odd bit of guitar by people like James Stevenson, it is all me. Now, there are way better guitarists and keyboard players, but I think the album has a charm to it because there's this amateur guitarist and amateur keyboard player, bloody good bass player and singer, and it has that kind of charming, slightly amateurish atmosphere to it. Of course, what it also has is some of the best songs ever written, because there are some cracking songs on there. And now's the time when picking out a highlight becomes really bloody difficult, doesn't it? Because they're all highlights. I think the song that turned into a great live song, much heavier live song than on the record, is Kelly's Gone Insane, based on a true episode following this girl on Facebook who lives in San Francisco and being amused by her working in a record shop and all the things that she'd really like to do to the customers there. Great. Really, really good song.
They just don't know why she felt just so. She got to work at the record store like any other day. He said hello, then she blew his head away. Kelly's gone insane. Kelly's gone insane. Kelly's gone insane. There was no reason or rhyme why she committed that crime. Now she's gonna do time. She just don't know why they treat her so. Every day at the record store, they all act the same. They say hello but don't wanna know her name. Kelly's gone insane. Kelly's gone insane. Kelly's gone insane. She ain't gonna say why. She had it in for that guy. She'll just sit here all night. Kelly's gone insane. Kelly's gone insane. Kelly's gone insane. She ain't gonna say why. She had it in for that guy. She'll just sit here all night.
And it was that song that I heard that got me to interview you the first time, probably in 2013-ish, which led to me saying to you, why don't you ever play Newcastle? And you said, because nobody's asked us. And I said, come and play Newcastle. And you were the first gig that I actually promoted. And we played at the Clooney in Newcastle.
That's right. Great venue.
On a Thursday night in January.
Yeah.
And we sold it out as well, didn't we?
I know. Fantastic, wasn't it?
And I made a profit. I made about a profit for all that work. But
I'm glad you did.
we'll put you up in a nice hotel.
You did indeed. And you bought us a Mexican meal or something.
I'm sure we did, yeah. It was great. It was absolutely great. But I haven't done any more gigs since then. That was the pinnacle.
Yeah, no, it was a really good night, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not long after that gig at the Clooney, we got on to recording the second album, the difficult second album. So called because it actually was quite easy to make, although it's the least successful of the Big Heads albums. So maybe it was quite difficult, but I think it's more because it's a very keyboardy sort of album. And I did encourage Alex Gold to let rip to his indie side. So maybe that's the reason, I don't know. One of the keyboard songs on it, Baby Doll, was massive hit live, as was Rocker Sailor V. One of my favourites is a track called Another City. It's got some great guitar playing on it by Alex. It's an ode to London, inspired by a trip on the river on a boat and a night out at the 12 Bar. I think it's a really good track.
Saturday
It took a while. It took a while through a few albums. It's around about at the time of Bombs Away. Mara of Angus and Sophie. Kira, I think, at the time was still the drummer a little bit before Karen joined. But that was the first time I thought live, I really got a good spot-on band now. And the thing that I loved about it was that, as I said, in the boys, a lot fell on my shoulders in terms of the live performance. I loved being part of a three-piece attack. It was the best thing about the Clash, I think, that they had three frontmen. And in the Big Heads, I loved having that again, both with Mauro and later on with Nick Hughes, just three show-offs. And at times, I'd be playing the gig and I'd be looking at the other two thinking, that is really funny what they're doing. It used to amuse me and it inspired me and led to what I think was brilliant live band. And I talked about being able to feel an audience. I could feel it. I mean, boys' gigs were great. We were a world-class live band, but it often wouldn't come alive until the final run-in when we'd play all the hits, if you like, and the crowd would go mad. With the Big Heads, I could feel. You could feel the enjoyment coming back from the audience because there was this brilliant show going on by brilliant musicians, and I just loved it.
Every time there's trouble, based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble. So why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it because it never works. There's no reason to shoot it and say bombs away, damn the consequences. Bombs away, let's go crazy. We tried it once before with W in the White House. Now we're up for more. We're dying to let the dogs out. So why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's light the fireworks. Stand back and enjoy it. Bombs away. Damn the consequences. Bombs away. Let's go crazy. Here we go again.
That when you did covers of the boys' songs like Brickfield Nights, you let Nick do the vocals and stuff, which is quite decent of you, really, when it's one of the major songs.
It was only Brickfield Nights, and the reason was that it was Matt's song. It was quite nice to get a break from singing in the middle of the set. But also I didn't want to sing it because it would have been wrong for me to sing Brickfield Nights. It was a record that very much Matt's record. In the early days, we would of course have 6 or so boys' songs in the set, because I might only have one album out at the time, so I needed them to fill out the set. But of course, also, it was good to play those songs because people wanted to hear them. At the end, as I say, it was only playing First Time and So Depressing. First Time you have to play, if you've sung on one of the best records ever, of course you play it live. So Depressing just because I love playing it so much. So we'd almost gone to 100% Big Heads.
And on the odd occasion, you also did Blitzkrieg Bop.
Yeah. It was a great piece of fun because we were playing in Spain. It was when Maro was in the band. And we were just going down a storm. A typical Spanish gig. It had kicked off at about 2 a.m. and we'd played for an hour and a half. And everybody was going wild and just wanted more. And then Maro said, let's play Blitzkrieg Bop. I said, I don't know how to play Blitzkrieg Bop. You'll get on with it. You'll do it.
Don't tell us that one of the Ramones came on stage and showed you how to.
Oh, no, they could have taught us how to play it, yeah. So he quickly told me, God, bloody hell, I don't know how to do this. And it was a bit like being on a Prince of Wales outbound course, you suddenly chucked into a place, you had to play it. And it was great. It was such good fun that we just carried on playing it.
On a number of your Big Heads albums, there's lots of references to places in the world that you've been. Tell us about some of those.
Well, Montevideo is obviously the famous one. What an honour to write this tongue-in-cheek song about a town, pretending that they're all off their faces on drugs and alcohol and partying every night, when it's one of the quietest places you've ever been to in your life. Lovely place, lovely people, brilliant city, but it is not party central. Because I made out that they were all drug-addled partygoers and ne'er-do-wells, they gave me a medal. Go to Montevideo, I have to turn up in the parliament and give a speech in Spanish accepting this huge honour. The only other musicians to ever get it, I think, are Paul McCartney and Elton John, and get this huge honour for having written this song about what a load of ne'er-do-wells they all are. Absolutely brilliant. And then, of all things, going back to the hotel, and there's Chuck Berry walking down the steps of the hotel as I'm going in. I'm thinking, bloody hell, there's the guy who invented the rock and roll lead guitar, and they gave me the medal. Absolutely amazing.
Did he ask for your autograph?
He was quite rightly. He didn't ask anybody for anything. He had lackeys to get everything for him.
You made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums with Duncan Reid and then Duncan Reid and the Big Heads.
You know, some great stuff on all of the albums. Bombs Away, absolutely great song. And I mentioned how brilliant Tony Barber was as a producer, and there's some great work by Sean Ganocchi as well on Bombs Away and Don't Blame Yourself. Don't Blame Yourself got some great tracks. For instance, To Live or Live Not, one of the best things that I've ever done.
Gonna rent my house out to a stranger. Gonna let them treat it like their own. Gonna move abroad and try some danger. Gonna try a taste of the unknown. I spent my whole life being safe and steady. Now it's time to roll the dice. To live or live not, that is the question. To love or love not, before my time's up. To lose the whole plot. Let's give confession. To sin or sin not, I've made my mind up. Gonna catch the first plane to Caracas. Why go somewhere that's far too safe? Gonna find a girl who plays maracas. Gonna ask her out with all her mates. We'll go dancing till the sun comes up. Sleep all day then start again. To live or live not, start the ignition. To give all I've got. Let's seize the day. Let's stop the run. Carpe diem. To dare or dare not. That's what I say. To live or live not, that is the question. To love or love not, before my time's up. To lose the whole lot. Let's give confession. To sin or sin not, I've made my mind up.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the album that you were most proud of was the final one, and it's Goodbye from him. Why that sentiment?
Reference to the two Ronnies. Do you remember the two Ronnies? It's what they'd always sign off with. And it's Goodbye from him probably wouldn't have happened if COVID hadn't come along, because the last gigs we were doing just before the first lockdown hit was a tour of Ireland. And I was in Dublin waiting to go on. And the thing about touring is when you're on stage, it's great. There's an awful lot of crap that goes with it, especially when you're doing all the organising yourself. And then, you know, you're travelling, being a bit tired from that, and then you're waiting to play. And especially if you're a singer, one of the difficult things is, because we always used to hang around everywhere, and people, of course, always want to talk to you, which is great. But they want to talk to you over a band or a PA playing, and you're trying not to shout. You're trying to save your voice, which is a bit sore anyway. So it was all a bit difficult. And we were waiting to go on in Dublin. And I was starting to think, it was the first inklings of, you know what, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And I think if COVID hadn't come along, I probably would have just done the promotion on Don't Blame Yourself, done a few gigs to promote it and stopped. But COVID came along, lockdown happened. We had to cancel all of the gigs that were there to promote that album. So just like the last one, it didn't really get any proper promotion, but nevertheless, it was a great album and did well. And then we had the first lockdown and I wasn't doing music and I wasn't thinking about music. And it was like a great mental holiday. And then after that lockdown finished, it put all the family and all the dogs into a car and we went down to the south of France and just stayed there from about July until October. I only came back because my daughter was pregnant. Just had this wonderful free time, not thinking about music. And I came back to London. Then the second lockdown happened after that, which was a bit of a miserable time, wasn't it? It was in the winter, you know, as opposed to the first one when the weather was great, all stuck in the house, not seeing anybody. And it was the second time. It was all going on a bit too long. So I didn't really have anything else to do but to write some songs. Ended up at the end of the lockdown with an album's worth of songs that I knew they were good songs. And I was introduced by Nick to Dave Draper. Dave is such a talented producer. He's like this unbelievably positive character. If you listen to the sound quality on the last album, it is fantastic. And I just had a great working relationship with him. You know, working with him in the studio was such a happy experience of somebody who was really contributing. And that album owes a lot to his talent, as well as my enormous one, of course. I just think the combination of the songs and his production, and also that I was starting to branch out and extend myself. And there are two tracks in particular on there, which are the two violin ones that I did with Alex Musatov, Going So Well and Would I Lie to You, where I'm really stretching myself in terms of the songwriting, making things deliberately hard for myself to try new things, because I sort of gone as far as I could in that sort of traditional, very melodic power pop punk sort of way. And if I'd carried on, if I hadn't stopped, that is the route I would have gone. I would have put together some kind of string quartet with a drummer and bass player and what have you. And that's what I would have done.
The boss said I'm lazy, but he's a little bit crazy, and what's he know? Anyway, he caught me having fun in the storeroom with Daisy. It's all a bit hazy on account of the rum, but it's all going well, all going oh so well, going so well today. Yes, it's all going Yes, it's all going well. All going oh so well. I had a bet on the horses, which sure ran like tortoises, but it's all going so well. All going well. All going oh so well. The boss says he'll reinstate me, and I'm marrying Daisy, so it's all going very well. So going well. All going oh so well. Going so well today.
I really think every song on it is just great. Lyrically, some really complicated stuff going on, clever stuff. And the playing and the arrangements and everything about it is just the best thing that I've ever done.
You've had a fantastic career in music. You've been a director of a football club. You've worked with Andrew Lloyd Webber. You've done loads of stuff. Now you're retired. Is there any chance that Duncan Reid can come back to the music scene in any shape or form?
When I said that fantastic night at the Lexington, of one of the most fun nights I've ever had, when I said that it was the last time that I was going to be playing, everybody said, oh yeah, everybody says that. Everybody says that. You'll be back. It won't take long. You'll be back. And I don't think I will. As I said before, it feels like a huge burden is off my back. And the idea of having to go away to play in Cottbus in East Germany when I could be with my grandchildren, it's just no competition. And I'm not someone who likes to do something half-heartedly. If I do something, I want it to be as good as it possibly can be, and that takes work. And I just don't have the inclination to put the work in to be good. It was being good that I always got the most pleasure out of when playing music. So there are other things I want to do. I'm having a great time. I've been in Guatemala teaching English to young kids who live in shacks over there. I'm doing a very, very specialist podcast for Saracens Rugby Club. As you know, I used to drag you along to see games when they played up in Newcastle. And it was always quite funny because I'd read on Facebook loads of my fans talking about what wankers rugby fans are. Mm-hmm. And actually, if they're talking about Twickenham, there is a very high wanker quotient that goes to Twickenham, but club rugby is very different. But I enjoy doing the podcast. I've had the opportunity to do some really special interviews with players, and I've really enjoyed it. I do a lot of mentoring of young teenage people in London who need a little bit of help to get back on track, and that's very satisfying, and it's amazing to see some great results that come from that. As I said before, I still work in the business that we've had for a long, long time. So life is very full, especially with the grandchildren, and music it really just doesn't feature. It's much in common with when the boys finished for the first time in the 80s, and I went on and had a 17-year career doing various things. I didn't think about music, didn't miss it. It's something within me. When something turns off, it turns off. I can't see, unlike previously when Japan came along, I can't see something coming along to turn that switch back on to make me want to do it.
Well, I tell you what, over the last 12 years or so that I've known you, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Radio Northumberland and going out with you socially and watching the band many, many times. I wish you the very best in your retirement, and I'm sure we'll be interviewing you again soon, because I'm sure you cannot stop. You'll do something different.
I doubt it. Oh, it's very kind of you to say what a pleasure it's been. I wish I could say the same. But no, it has. It's been great. I just want to say thank you to you because, as you say, you've been one of the best supporters down the years, and it's always been a pleasure to come up to the studio and have some idiot put a peg on my back and what have you. Yeah, no, it's been great going to many occasions. The European rugby final at St James Park, as well as a few Newcastle games and what have you. We've always had a good time. It's been great.
Well, we've still got the Ramones ticket from the boys on our studio wall, but you very kindly came along, put a circle around the price at £2.50 and said very cheap, and then signed it.
Well, it was cheap. It's amazing looking back at prices, isn't it? When you look at, God, bloody hell, all the people like Bruce Springsteen and what have you, trying to get people to believe it's their last time round and pay 500 quid, or Oasis. It's amazing how cheap it was to go out then.
Yeah, that's all relative though, isn't it?
It is.
Duncan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me again, Keith.
Yeah, it was great.